Everybody, we're getting ready to go into our last session, so we'll get everybody in from outside and appreciate the rest of you getting to your seats efficiently for our last two sessions, which I think will really round out the day and fill in a couple of really important components to things like these places of innovation, innovation districts. You've heard mention of 16 Tech, and then we'll also jump a little bit into the space of venture capital, startup opportunities, and the whole landscape of entrepreneurs really trying to make a go of the Agbiosciences. So without any further ado, we'll go ahead and get started with the closing sessions. And so again, throughout the rest of the afternoon, we're going to not only talk about these opportunities for more innovation, more collaboration, but especially the commercialization of new ideas across a spectrum of these advanced industries that we've already talked about. Our next speaker, I think you'll really appreciate hearing from, because again, I think there's still some maybe lack of clarity, or the word isn't quite getting out completely, but it's been referenced here today that there is an opportunity here in the Indianapolis area for the development of a new place where innovation can occur and cross boundaries in what's called 16 Tech. And Bob Coy is our president and CEO of 16 Tech. You have more information about his background in your program books, but needless to say, he's done this before, and this is why he is such a great grab for all of us here in Indiana. Not only will he be able to take lessons learned from some of the other places, like the Cincinnati area, where he was the president and CEO of Cincy Tech before coming here, but I've also gotten to know Bob a little bit, and I know, much like our last speakers made the point, it's really important not just to take pages out of your old playbook, but to really start thinking about the opportunities in your new playbook. And that's why we're really excited to have Bob's leadership in the 16 Tech area. And he's going to give you a little more background about the vision, about the opportunities that are coming by putting an innovation district like that in place. And so I think you'll really enjoy hearing his comments. So Bob, I'll ask you to come to the podium with your outstanding music.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here with you, and I'd like to begin by complimenting Beth and the entire team on putting together what I believe has been high-quality programs from beginning to up to this point. I hope I can continue the trend that's been set. As Beth said, I'm leading a new organization called 16 Tech, and before I get into the specifics about what 16 Tech is, it is a place, it's a physical place. I want to connect it to some of the points that were made earlier, especially by our luncheon speaker, about the importance of place. And I was just taking notes as I was listening to him, because it set the stage so perfectly for what we're trying to do at 16 Tech. He said, place matters to genius. Place means culture. And the culture of innovation is based on the 3 Ds: diversity, especially intellectual diversity, disorder, discernment, and discomfort. And some of the barriers to innovation that some of the other panelists have made are many of our organizations are in our own silos, and a lot of the innovative products that are being developed today occur at the intersection of technology, especially computation, life sciences, engineering, and physics. And that is the kind of environment that we're attempting to create at 16 Tech. So let me see if I can make this work. There we go. To begin with, I would, and building on the themes that were presented by our luncheon speaker, there is a wave, a new trend that's been underway for quite some time in America, and that is that a lot of innovation that's taking place in our country is occurring in urban areas. And increasingly, it's occurring in regions or in areas of the city that are close to the downtown area. And as evidence of that, A survey of about 250 companies was done in 2015 and found that a very high percentage of them had been moving operations and people into these downtown urban areas of both first-tier and second-tier cities. And I have presented here some logos of companies that have recently done that. General Electric, a few years ago, moved from Connecticut to Boston, downtown Boston, because they needed to be close to MIT. They're transforming themselves into a digital company. We often think of them as airplanes and engines and turbines, power plants, and things like that. But they're increasingly a digital company, and they wanted to be close to MIT and Harvard. McDonald's and Motorola both recently moved from the suburbs of Chicago to downtown Chicago. Our own Cummins Engine here in Indiana has built a beautiful building in downtown Indianapolis. Aetna recently announced that they're moving from Hartford, Connecticut to downtown New York City. And Rolls-Royce, right here in Indianapolis, moved from the suburbs of Indianapolis downtown. And the reasons that these companies are doing this are these. These were the reasons that were given by the companies that were surveyed. First, to attract and retain talent, especially millennial talent. Increasingly, millennials want to live in urban areas where they can walk, ride bikes, have access to all of the fun amenities that you can find downtown. So talent attraction is a key reason why. Brand identity and company culture are another reason. There's just a perception that you can improve your brand especially as an innovative brand if you're in an urban area. Supportive and creative collaboration. We heard that theme throughout the day about the importance of being able to collaborate and have random collisions with people, maybe in different industries and different technologies where the creative and innovation process occurs. Proximity to customers and business partners. Centralize operations. As companies in one area begin to centralize, they're centralizing their operations closer to the downtown because of easier access to public transportation in other parts of the city. And then lastly, a triple bottom line goal of a lot of companies today is to support the community. And by relocating in downtown areas, they can support the community in different ways as well as make their businesses more innovative. And this is one trend that 16 Tech is building on. But before getting into 16 Tech, these are examples of innovation districts that are across the country. And these by no means are the only ones, but you'll find them on the East Coast, the West Coast, St. Louis, Chicago. And they're often and almost always in partnership with the university, because it's about putting into one area in close proximity corporations, startups, established companies in different industries, collaborating with universities to create innovation. So 16 Tech is 60 acres, and it is across from the hospital complex here in Indianapolis and the IU School of Medicine. It is bounded by the White River and Fall Creek, and this is a rendering of what it will look like eventually. That's not how it looks today. Today, it is, as I mentioned, a place with 60 acres. It's a lot of repurposed urban real estate. There are older light manufacturing buildings there right now, as well as some hospital functions. And we'll be building those 60 acres over the next 15 years into about 5 million square feet of lab office space, as well as multifamily living, retail. It will be connected to the cultural trail, which is a really important part of Indianapolis. It will have bike paths through it, restaurants, et cetera. And all of these things will help to create a vibe of open and creative community to attract talent and to create a truly live, work, play environment. And as I mentioned, we want to have a common ground where large companies, small companies, in 3 industries in particular, life sciences, IT, and engineering-oriented industries, will locate portions of their operations. in order to collaborate and in particular attract talent. This is just another picture of where 16 Tech is located within the city of Indianapolis, and you can see we're close to IUPUI, the Riley Hospital, the Eskenazi Hospital, Indiana University School of Medicine, and the Indiana Bioscience Research Institute, which will be the anchor tenant of 16 Tech. So we are in the process right now of concluding our first developer agreement with a developer who will build the first 4 buildings. I expect my board to approve the developer agreement tomorrow, and we'll be able to break ground in the spring on the IBRI's headquarters. And with Reiner being here, thank you, Reiner, for that. We'll also have, you notice here, the garage. So there's a 40,000 square foot open bay garage at 16 Tech, which was owned by the Citizens Energy Group. And we're going to convert that into co-working space and a maker space, which will essentially be a micro factory for the development of prototypes that can be used by startups as well as by established companies. And this is actually an important component of innovation districts. They have assets like these that become common assets and that really distinguish an innovation district from a typical urban business corporate research park, which is just where companies go and are often siloed into their own buildings. They don't interact with each other, and there's no real programming around innovation that brings them together so that the collisions that are necessary for innovation to occur can happen. We'll have a multifamily building, which will also start late next year, about 250 to 300 units of apartments, of market rate apartments. And that will begin then to be the development of this district, which, as I mentioned, over the next 15 years, we hope to build out into a dense community with about 5 million square feet of space. A vibrant community is an important component of what we will have, and this nice picture, which looks like it was taken out in the country, is actually an actual picture of a walking path at 16 Tech along the river. So we'll have this kind of thoughtful environment for people to relax and walk along the river, ride their bikes. We'll have access to Blue Indy and also bike sharing, and we'll begin to create an exciting architectural environment that will be attractive to innovative companies. Our first building, which is in the design phase right now, is this building. This will be the home of the Indiana Bioscience Research Institute. It's about 100,000 square feet. It will have labs as well as office space. At the present time, the IBRI will be on the first 3 floors of this 5-story building. It's highly likely that the Indiana School of Medicine will take a floor, and they will locate there researchers who are doing work that's related to the work of the IBRI, so there'll be an opportunity for collaborations between IBRI and the IU School of Medicine. As I mentioned earlier, we also want this district to have an IT focus. As John McDonald said earlier, we're all technology companies today, and that is certainly true of IT. Yesterday, I met with the dean of the informatics school of a major university in Indiana and presented this concept to him, and he said he would like to have 1,000 square feet in the building because he also, this is informatics and data, wants to have partnerships with IBRI and other private companies that are there. We also expect the Indiana University, Purdue University, Notre Dame, and Rose-Hulman to have a presence there, especially with a commercialization focus, so that companies that want to have access to the technology, not just the technology at these universities, but also the faculty who work at these universities can have a one-stop shop to get access to those resources and that expertise. This is just an example of the kind of environment and the kind of organizations that we're trying to pull together. the design of our buildings will be to promote purpose-built collaboration, or the buildings will be purpose-built to encourage collaboration, I should say. The open space environment that you see today in many modern office buildings. And as I mentioned, we'll be breaking ground on a multifamily project unit late next year. And this is our timeline. We're concluding our development agreement now, this week, with the developer to develop these first buildings. We'll begin construction in the first quarter of 2018. We'll have construction through 2020. The first building will be open in early 2020. I failed to mention that we're also building a bridge. We're building a bridge to connect 16 Tech to the hospital complex. For those of you who are familiar with Indianapolis, it's Riley Drive, where Riley Drive connects to 10th Street. There will be a bridge across Fall Creek that will actually make it possible it'll be a walking bridge as well as a car bridge, and it'll make it possible for people who work in these large complexes to walk across the bridge to take advantage of the assets at 16 Tech. So that is what we're doing and where we're going, and this is what we hope to build over the next 15 years. It'll be an exciting and vibrant and important addition to the future of Indianapolis. And I'll stop here, Beth, and be happy to take any questions.
Well, I'll start with one, and we'll see if we get some others from the audience. But one of the things that we watch very closely at AgriNovus are some of the other regions in the country that are working on either similar types of districts or accelerator kinds of systems. From your background, having been through a lot of this in other places, where do you see in the ag tech, ag innovation space some places that we should look to for either models of success or ways that we can do it better?
Okay, sure. Well, one model is in St. Louis. Before I moved to Cincinnati, I lived in St. Louis from 2001 until 2005. And I was involved in the formation of an innovation district there called Cortex, C-O-R-T-E-X. And that innovation district is adjacent to the Washington University School of Medicine and St. Louis University, the Missouri Botanical Gardens, which is a major ag research organization, as well as, and Monsanto was a big player in this. Mm-hmm. And they assembled within that area about 125 acres of ground, and they began to do this back in 2003. 2010, it really started to take off, and there you will find today, the first company that moved there is an ag company called Soleil, which is a partnership between DuPont and Bunge, mm-hmm. I think, soy protein. And you will find there now, it's become quite a vibrant place. They have a hotel, which we will have as well. I failed to mention we'll have a hotel there. They have about 300 startup companies there, which is actually a really important component of these districts. One of the points that our luncheon speaker made is that areas that produce geniuses tend to be disorganized to some extent, disorganized chaos. And I think that one of the best innovation districts today have that kind of feeling of organized chaos. There's a lot of life. There's a mashup of startup companies and established companies. And in fact, what you'll find in many of these districts is that one reason why established companies will go there is because they want to start to interact with startup companies. Especially in the life sciences today, a lot of the innovation that large pharma companies are looking for is coming from startup companies. So St. Louis is an example, I think, that we can look to that has made great progress.
Great. Any questions from the audience? How do we find you?
You can find me at Bob Coy, bcoy at 16tech.com. We have a website you can go to, and anybody who's interested in learning more, just shoot me an email, and I'd love to talk to you.
I think that would be great. I think we have a number of people representing early stage companies, very mature companies. So as a little hook, it may actually end up that AgriNovus offices are at F16 Tech in the future. So you can even make us as a part of the magnet to being there. We hope that all of that comes together. Have a question?
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So we ran out of time, so I didn't get to ask my question to the last group, but you may have come up with the solution. You had two individuals sitting up there, and when the Purdue alum learned that the IU alum was sitting next to him, he moved his seat away. And all morning we've been talking about working together. And so they should, instead of moving away, they should hug each other. Now, they both can be thinking, I feel sorry for the other guy, but then they can say, how can I help you? So how can this facility serve to bring, for example, IU and Purdue together? Okay, you have two great Big Ten schools, but yet some of the alumni kind of distance themselves. So how can you be a catalyst?
Well, I think that it begins with a conversation. I'm not from Indiana, so I'm not sure quite how extensive and extreme the rivalries are, but it sounds like they're pretty intense. But we did have a meeting that was held at BioCrossroads about a month ago that included leaders of IU, Purdue, and Rose-Hulman. Somebody from Notre Dame was supposed to have attended, but something came up and he couldn't make it down. But these were all the leaders of their technology commercialization activities. And I felt in that meeting afterwards that there was a strong commitment to the value proposition of 16 Tech and a realization that they ought to be working together. And want to, not only ought to, but wanted to be working together. So we'll try to build on that conversation and see where it goes, but I think it will go someplace.
So then I'll share this with you. I'm a Purdue professor. And
I could tell.
And very proud of it. My son is an IU grad, and we have a startup company together, and he's the CEO. And I can tell you there are different cultures, Purdue and Indiana, and they've cross-fertilized really well.
That's great.
We can learn from each other, and we want to find out how we can sign up to get some early space in your facility.
Love to talk to you. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. I think that was a great way to sort of end the conversation around the mission, the purpose, the collaborative opportunities, and the place. So, perfect. Bob, thank you very much for being with us and giving us a preview of the 16 Tech initiative.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you.